This is going to be about NOVATECH, right? This is going to be a response to a question that I had from a loyal supporter, a loyal subscriber about NOVATECH, right? And this person said, "Hello, Vaughn. I was in NOVATECH for 1 year and I took withdrawals every week. Good. So I am not down too much." My question, and I assume what they mean there is that they're not down too much money. So they were in NOVATECH for a year. They took their withdrawals every week. They're not down for too much money. My question is, how come NOVATECH is having such major problems? And is the same thing going to happen with the newer companies? Okay, so we got some stuff to break down here, okay? And what we're going to break down when it comes to your question here is we're going to talk about the assassination of NOVATECH and what it means for crypto platforms moving forward, okay? So, guys, look, how come NOVATECH is having such major problems? Well, the major problem with NOVATECH was twofold, right? First and foremost, what happened was they got on the radar of the state governments and some country governments like Canada, the United States, the state of Wisconsin. They got in trouble. The state of California, they got in trouble, and they started getting cease and refrain orders, cease and desist orders. Why? Because they live in Florida. Okay, they lived in Florida, right? The CEO of the company, and they did have operations in the United States. Yes, they had operations overseas in the Grenadines. Yes, they had operations overseas, but they also had operations in the United States, and that's the thing that really got them in trouble, right? That's the thing that really shot them in the foot, right? And got them in some trouble. And it's not really a joke, but that's what happened. So what happened with NOVATECH is directly tied to where they live and where they were operating, right? They were operating in the jurisdiction of the United States. They were operating in the jurisdiction of Canada. And that's what got them in trouble in the first place. Okay. Maybe you've noticed this, but cryptocurrency and anything having to do with crypto, and especially people making large sums of money at crypto, for the last couple of years now have been under attack in the United States. The US government is attacking cryptocurrency for whatever reason. Now, I can tell you what the reason is. You might not necessarily believe me, but what it comes down to is it comes down to simple government control. Now, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but the government, with their US dollar, the government can garnish your wages. They can shut down your bank account. They can literally freeze your account. They can seize your assets at any given moment, right? Most people don't know that. Most people live their whole lives without knowing that. Most people are ignorant to it and frankly don't care, right? Because they figure, hey, it's not my problem. Well, yeah, right. It's not your problem until it becomes your problem, until it's your account that gets shut down, until it's your account that gets garnished, until it's your assets that get frozen, until the government comes in and takes something from you because they can. It's not your problem. But when it happens to you, all of a sudden it will be your problem. Now, what cryptocurrency represents is it represents something called decentralized finance. Ultimately, crypto cannot be controlled, especially Bitcoin, right? And so, because of that, it has instituted a new ability for the world to have free trade. Free trade without the government tracking what you do, without the government being able to seize your account, without the government being able to garnish your wages. And frankly, what it means is it brings a level to the playing field where I can make a deal with you and you can make a deal with me and we can exchange cryptocurrency and the government has no authority whatsoever, right? The government has no ability to stop that trade, right? And basically, the question comes down to this: should I be allowed to sell you something or you sell me something, a service or a product, without the government being involved? Should that be allowed? Should that be legal? Right? I say yes, it should. Crypto people say yes, it should. It's really not the government's business, right? Yeah, we're going to have to pay taxes. You're going to have to pay income tax regardless, right? Whether you make your income in crypto or however you make your income, you're going to have to. I'm not saying not to pay taxes, right? But it's more than that. They want the control factor. They want the ability to turn off your account, right? They already have you ever heard of the Snowden files? If not, once you get done watching this, go ahead and Google the Snowden files, the Snowden report. Okay? So, basically what happened was this guy who worked for the CIA, he came out and he let everybody know, "Hey, yes, the government is tapping your phone. They are in your video cameras, they are on your computer, and they are watching." Right? Big Brother is here. And we've known this for a while now. This all started with the Patriot Act, which was signed after September 11th, after the country got attacked. Everybody was scared. They ran through something called the Patriot Act, which basically stripped everybody of their right to privacy. And it allows the government legally to spy on its own people, which they do. Okay. And not only that, but they also control your money. So they're able to spy on you, they can control you, they can control your money, and if they want to, I mean, they can squish us like bugs, right? They can stomp us out like ants, they can swat us like flies, right? We already know the military power that the government has, but imagine what we don't know. We know about the F-15. We know about the stealth bomber that cannot be detected by radar. We know about some pretty powerful stuff. Imagine what we don't know about that they have. Think we're going to do anything against them? There's nothing we can do. But crypto to them represents a threat because it represents a loss of control. Now, how does this affect NOVATECH? Well, it affects NOVATECH because NOVATECH was making people rich off of crypto, right? And NOVATECH was operating in the United States, right? And NOVATECH is just one of the many companies that have come under attack and got ran out of town, right? And so I think that should answer the first part of your question, which was how come NOVATECH is having such major problems? Okay. And is the same thing going to happen to the newer companies? Now, I alluded to this earlier in the broadcast, but I'm glad that you brought this up because, yes, it already affected the other companies. See, NOVATECH has been a forerunner in the crypto platform space, meaning they got out ahead of the game. They did something that was new, they did something that was revolutionary, and they went out in front and got the arrows, right? So they were in the front line and they got all of the arrows, right? So all the arrows that were being shot, they got them all. That's why I call it the assassination of NOVATECH, right? They were assassinated, they were taken out, right? And what that did was it woke the other companies up and said, wow, if this can happen to NOVATECH, imagine what could happen to my crypto company, right? If this could happen to Binance, imagine what could happen to my crypto company. If this could happen to Coinbase, imagine what could happen to my crypto company. And they've already, the ones that were operating in the United States, many of them, guys, and I don't know if you realize this, but many of them have already moved their operations to overseas, 100% overseas. So, because of what happened in NOVATECH. Because they do not want to be under the jurisdiction of the United States. Because that's what killed NOVATECH. Listen, here's what happened. United States put out cease and desist orders. The NOVATECH people got scared because of the cease and desist orders. They all withdrew their money at the same time because of the cease and desist orders. This happened in October of 2022. They all withdrew their money at the same time, and that caused a phenomenon called a run on the bank. That's when everybody pulls out their money all at once, and because the bank's other money is tied up in investments, all of a sudden now the bank is not liquid anymore, and they can't pay people out, and they collapse. And it can happen to anyone. Okay? NOVATECH's not special. A run on the bank can happen to anybody. It's just that when we get a run on a government-backed bank like US Bank or Bank of America or some of the Silicon Valley banks that had a bank run, well, our government comes in and steps them and bails them out. But they did not bail out NOVATECH, black-owned company, right? Crypto company. The government didn't care. They didn't come in to bail out NOVATECH. They're not going to. Because crypto is something that they don't like and it doesn't fall under their control. So why would they bail them out? But oh yeah, they'll bail out Bank of America, right? Hey, you want your money to be safe? Go throw it in Bank of America, right? It's never going to grow, not 1 cent, not one single solitary cent. In fact, you'll probably lose money if you have a savings account there. But hey, at least you got big daddy government to bail you out if something happens. The problem is, if that same big daddy government decides that they don't like you, then they can freeze your Bank of America account. They can seize your Bank of America account. They can get you out of your house, tear down your house, demo it, and put in a highway. And there's nothing you can do about it, Jack. Nothing. Okay. Where else are you getting the same kind of sauce that you're getting here at the Unlimited Freedom Network? I don't think anybody's giving you the same kind of sauce. So hit the like button for the sauce. The orange pill, titanium pill, stainless steel pill sauce that nobody else is giving you anywhere on the internet, definitely not on YouTube. Okay, so guys, once that happened to NOVATECH, the other companies saw it and the other companies have left, right? I know of a couple of companies personally that have literally shut down operations in the United States and reorganized overseas. And you know what? I'm glad they did it. I'm happy they did it. They did the right thing. Because you can't win against somebody like the U.S. government that's got all the power in the world, right? They're backed by, I talked about the F-15s, the stealth bombers, and they got things we don't even know about. You can't go against that. What are you going to do? What's one little company going to do against that type of power? Well, they're doing the only thing they can do, which is they're moving their operations overseas. All right. And that's kind of sad, right? That's kind of sad because we know that a lot of these crypto companies are on the cutting edge of technology. They're on the cutting edge of fintech, financial technology. They're on the cutting edge of trading, and they're on the cutting edge of artificial intelligence and employing artificial intelligence to make money. And they're leaving, right? Does that sound like a good thing to you? It doesn't to me. Right? I mean, don't you remember? I remember a time, maybe you don't, but I remember a time when innovative people would come to the United States. United States would wanted innovators to come here. They wanted innovators to come here. They wanted innovators to go to Princeton and to go to Harvard and to get an education and to stay here in the United States and be innovators in the field of technology. But now what's happening? The innovative people are leaving. Why? Because they don't want to get bogged down in court. They don't want to get the charges. They don't want to get the red tape. They don't want to be constantly, gone over with a fine tooth comb, constantly under the magnifying glass. They want to be able to operate and run their business. And so, in order to do that, they're leaving, right? They're leaving our shores. Sad, right? Sad, but true. That's what's happening. So, for that part of your question, that's why NOVATECH is having such major problems. And it also begins to answer the second part of your question, which was, is the same thing going to happen with the newer companies? No, not the exact same thing. Because of this phenomenon, because of what happened to NOVATECH, the companies have seen that and have taken steps to avoid that happening to them. Right? There's something called international laws, right? When it comes to trading, international laws when it comes to finance. They're learning how to become compliant with international laws. They're leaving the shores of the United States and they're operating internationally. Dubai is a big place where a lot of people are moving to. We've got Vortic United that operates out of Istanbul, Turkey, right? A lot of the companies that we're involved with here at the Unlimited Freedom Network operate in the United Kingdom, right? So it's not like they're going to Haiti or something like that, but they are leaving the shores of the United States. Okay. And for good reason. So, because of that, you're not going to see the same thing. Another thing that the companies are doing that NOVATECH did not do, and that I believe NOVATECH was a forerunner, and I believe that the newer companies learned this from NOVATECH, is they're not allowing everybody to withdraw all their money at any time. You have certain time frames, like QP, your investment has to be in for 30 days. Right, Vortic United, some of your investments have to be in for 32 weeks, right? And they do that so that people can't make a run on the bank, right? What happened with NOVATECH is there were no guardrails, there were no guidelines as to how long you had to keep your investment in there, and you could pull all of your money out at any time. And that actually worked against them back in October of 22 when people did pull their money out at the same time, and it caused the phenomenon called the bank run. It caused a killing of their liquidity. They never could get back up. They got knocked down. They tried to get back up, but they never really could. Now, the newer companies have things in place to prevent that from happening. They have guardrails in place. You got to have your crypto in there for a certain amount of time, not just you, but every investor, which protects you and it protects them and it protects me. It protects everybody, right, from having that phenomenon of the run on the bank, the Novatech run on the bank, the same phenomenon that happened to them, so that it doesn't happen again. So they're putting those guardrails in place. They're finding places to operate overseas. They're finding ways to become compliant with international law. And some of them, frankly, just don't operate in the United States at all, which brings me to my next topic for you. And my next point is we should all be getting a VPN, right? Because that's where this thing is going. The legislation here in our company has become so forbidding, right? That companies are going overseas. And we, at some point, we're going to need a VPN to even access those countries because America is blacking out the internet when it comes to accessing certain crypto companies, when it comes to accessing certain AI companies. The forefront of technology, the cutting edge of technology, they're blacking out on the internet so that their citizens cannot connect to these websites, right? Now, the only other country that does that is communist China, right? Communist China already has most, like Facebook, you can't access it there. Other companies you can't access from communist China. And now the land of the free, right? And the home of the brave, right? Who would have thunk it, right? Who would have thunk it? Who would have thought that the land of the free, home of the brave was now going to start blacking out people's internet to where you couldn't access certain countries? So what a VPN does is it allows you to change your IP address to an IP address overseas. That's what I use for sportsbook partners. That's what I use for 1 weeks. And it's not going to be long before all of the other companies follow suit. Might not be this year, might not be next year, but 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road, 5 years down the road, there might come to a point where these type of crypto companies just, you can't even access them anymore from an IP address in the United States, which is why it's important to get a VPN. And I'm going to put that in the chat, VPN. Right now, I use NordVPN. And no, I do not get a referral bonus from NordVPN. Okay, so you think I'm a big scammer getting my referral bonus? I'm not. Okay. Uh, okay. So NordVPN is what I use. It does cost money. You can also get Proton VPN, which I believe is free, and I'll put that in the description as well. Now, what this software does is once you install it, it allows you to pick a country outside of the US that you can have your IP address in, right? So right now, I'm talking to you guys from an IP address in Taiwan, right? That way I can operate freely. I can connect to all of my different crypto platforms that I need to connect to, and I don't have to worry about getting blacked out, here in the United States, right? Now, that's how you do it, guys. Other platforms are going to require you to have a mailing address overseas. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but it's coming, right? And here's a company that I use. All you have to do is Google this one. Postal. You can get an address from anywhere in the world, right? A mailing address. Like it's like what we refer to here as a PO box. You can get a mailbox anywhere in the world and therefore have a mailing address in a different part of the world so that when you do sign up for a crypto platform, if they do not want to play in the United States, which pretty much most of them are not going to want to, right? I mean, look what happened in NOVATECH, the assassination of NOVATECH. It's the shot heard round the world, right? Just like the shot heard round the world, right? Just like from your history books, right? Everybody saw what happened. They follow suit and they're doing things to protect themselves from having that happen to them, right? Because they don't, it's not, you already saw it could happen. It happened, right? So they're putting things in place, excuse me, to protect themselves from having that happen. One of the things is moving overseas, guys. So iPostal, you can get an address overseas. NordVPN, you can get a VPN overseas. Proton VPN is free. That's where this thing is going eventually. Now, you don't have to do it right now. You don't have to do it this second, but I do it, and I would recommend anybody who watches me to do it and to think about doing it because I don't see this getting better. Guys, unfortunately, I don't see this getting better. Yes, Coinbase has won a victory against the SEC, but ultimately, long term, I don't see it getting better because they can't control it. And from what I've seen, right, of just living on this earth for as long as I have, is that the big world governments, like the big powerful governments, they want to be in control. They need to be in control. And anything that threatens their quote unquote control, they take that as a real threat. So I don't see them stopping, right, attacking crypto companies, right? And they put this idea in the heads of the people that if it's crypto, it's a scam. right? People don't even know why they think it's a scam. They just hear the word crypto and they think scam because you're being programmed, right? This is programming. They're programming people to think that crypto is a scam, right? They're programming people to think that anything that has to do with AI, artificial intelligence, is a scam. It's programming. It's government programming, right? So, I mean, guys, this stuff, we are living in historical times, right? We really are. With this whole, the crypto revolution, the DeFi, decentralized finance, just everything that's happening, we're living in really a boom, an economic boom for those who are willing to get in at the ground floor, for those who are willing to be early adapters, right? And that's why so those of us who are in this space get so excited about it because we know that you can win in this space because we're winning in this space, right? And so this is not to go against the government, guys. I would love the United States to become crypto friendly. I'd be the first one to say hallelujah, right? If they became crypto friendly, right? I just don't see it. I don't see, based on what's been happening, I don't see it. Not anytime soon, anyway. All right, so let me see if I missed anything in your comment. You said, hello, Vaughn. I was in Novatech for 1 year and I took withdrawals every week, so I am not down too much. My question is, how come Novatech is having such major problems, right? We answered that. And is the same thing going to happen with the newer companies? We answered that. No, I think the newer companies, what happened with Novatech is unfortunate, but I think people learned from it. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into a couple of chats. Darren said, I've been on this planet for over half a century, and the best decision I've ever made was signing up for Unlimited Freedom's binary options trading course. You could teach a very young child to do this. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate that. I appreciate you. And yeah, the trading course, it's simple, right? And that's the beautiful thing about it, right? Is you don't have to, you don't have to be like a calculus mathematical genius to do the strategy. All you have to do is be able to go along with the strategy and control your emotions. That's it. Right? If you can do those two things, you're going to be good to go. Darren, that's how easy it is. If you're on the fence, get off and sign up. I appreciate you. Julie, hey there, Darren. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to teach my grandkids to trade. Good idea. Jerry, Julie said that, and then Jerry said, okay, so what happens to all the money in Novatech? Does the government seize all of it? Okay, so that's a good question. So basically, and then Bruce said, preach it, Darren. Okay, I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate you guys. Okay, so what happens to all the money in Novatech? Does the government seize all of it? Well, that's already started to happen. As a matter of fact, Jerry, the state of Wisconsin has made demands right on Novatech for restitution. And here's what I want you to understand, and here's what I don't want you to miss: restitution for the victims. Governments do this all the time. States do it all the time, right? The Fed does it. When you commit a crime or when you are found guilty of a crime, 9 times out of 10, you have to pay restitution to something called the Victims Fund. Okay, the Victims Fund. But did you know? And I can tell you this. I'm in a unique position to tell you this because I am a criminal, right? I have a criminal history. I am a felon. Like it or not, I'm always going to be a felon. I'm always going to be labeled a felon because of my past, right? I got into some trouble years ago. I have violent felonies, right? I've done prison time, right? And because of that, I know a little bit of sauce that maybe the normal, average, everyday person doesn't know and doesn't realize. And that is that 9 times out of 10, when you're a criminal, when you do something wrong, you have to pay restitution to a victims fund. Now, even though Novatech, we wouldn't call them criminals, but that's what the government is labeling them, right? They're labeling them a fraud and this and that and the other thing, and they have to pay restitution to a victims fund. Right now, you can see all of the paperwork on that, and I did a live broadcast a couple of weeks ago where I pulled out all the paperwork on Novatech. It was a 2.5 hour long broadcast. Not only did I pull out all of the paperwork, I actually linked every single case in the description. So if you want to dig into the paperwork, you can do that. Just go to my live section, go and find that video. It's from a couple of weeks ago. and it was 2.5 hours long, a lot of sauce in there for you. Okay. So if you're interested into digging into digging deep into what's going on with Novatech, I highly recommend that you watch that video. Okay. It goes to a victim's fund. Restitution goes to a victim's fund. Here's the thing. The victims never get it. The victim's fund is collected and managed by the state or by the Fed. So the victim's fund that you're paying, yeah, it's the government. So yes, Novatech's money is going to go to the government, and then the government will decide who to sparse that out to. And you'll probably need to get a lawyer at that point to even get anything. And you're probably definitely only going to get about $300 because they're going to say, "Oh well, we had to sparse the victims fund out to all of this other people, and so even though you put in 10 grand, here's your $300." Right? And the government is going to keep the rest. That's how they do it. The difference between the government and the criminal is that the government operates legally with impunity. The difference between me going and punching my neighbor in the face and a cop going and punching my neighbor in the face is that it's illegal for me, but it's legal for the cop. Because the cop operates with a certain amount of impunity because the cop is represented by the state. It's called state-sponsored violence. Look it up. Okay? As long as you're sponsored by the state, given authority by the state, you can do things that the average person can't do. So what is a felony for me is standard operating procedure for them. The only difference is they're part of the quote unquote government. They're part of the system. They have immunity. They have impunity. They can do that. Right? It's legal. Right? This thing that happened a couple of years ago, where that cop ended up doing prison time. Guys, first off, that cop is not doing hard time, right? Because those cops look out for one another in the joint. And I'm going to tell you what's going on is they're letting that guy out at night. During lights out, when everybody goes to sleep, they're letting him out. He's going and partying it up, going to the club, probably drinking, partying, having relations. He's doing everything. And then he comes back for the count. Right? They let him back into the prison, and so he's there when they're doing the count, right? 3 times a day or whatever it is. The cops look after their own in prison, so that guy ain't doing no hard time. Okay. Do you think that a cop could be in general population in prison? Huh? Want to talk about getting greenlit? Yeah, no, he ain't doing no hard time. But before that, but he's one of the first that ever got in trouble for when he killed that guy. They've done that for years. They've done that since the freaking beginning of time, right? They don't get in trouble generally. This guy was an exception, but the exception does not make the rule. Generally, they can do that stuff, right? It's called state-sponsored violence, right? And so, yeah, the government's going to get it, Jerry. You're exactly right. It's going to go to a victims fund, right? Victims restitution fund. And guess who owns the victims fund? The government. The government is the victims fund. The government controls the money in the victims fund. So every domestic abuse, murder, robberies, bank robbery, every restitution that you can think of goes to the government. But they won't tell you that, right? Another thing that they won't tell you is a lot of the firefighters in our country and in Canada that fight the wildfires. Did you know that those guys are actually prisoners trying to get some time off of their sentence? It's true. Those guys are not they call them firefighters, but those guys that die in the wildfires fighting the fires, those are prisoners trying to get time off of their sentence. Right? You can do stuff like that. You can get dropped into a burning forest from a helicopter and try to put the fire out, and if you live, you get a little bit of time off of your sentence. Okay? There's a ton of prisoners out there in the community working for peanuts, working for 2 cents an hour, basically working for free, right? All the way back to the constitutional amendments, right? Where they made slavery illegal, but it was still legal in the case of a quote unquote criminal. So they turned the word slave into the word criminal. And they've got a whole class of people. Listen, guys, I'm not just talking out the side of my mouth here, right? United States per capita has the most prisoners out of any any country in the world. They have an entire workforce, an entire slave force of quote unquote criminals. Right. And who's going to be the criminal? Who's the next criminal? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be me? Who knows? Whoever they want it to be. Because who has the power? They're the ones that make the rules. The prosecutors decide who becomes a criminal. The powers that be decide who gets labeled a criminal, labeled a felon, put into the fields, put into the workforce, making next to nothing, risking their lives, dying in wildfires, right? Paying restitution. But it's not the criminal that's paying restitution, it's their family, right? Because they don't get any money anymore, right? But even if they do just make peanuts, that money goes to the restitution, to the victims fund. Problem is, the victims never get the victims fund, right? The victims never get the fund. The fund is controlled by the government. Nobody else is giving you the same kind of sauce that I'm bringing to you here at the Unlimited Freedom Network. The orange pill, titanium pill, stainless steel pill sauce. Nobody else is bringing it to you. Nobody else is pulling back the veil, right, and kind of letting you know what's going. So that's what happened, and yeah, so the government's going to get it. That's right. Great question, man. Great question. All right, so let's get into this next topic.